Welcome to this week's episode of the Punk Popcast, where we're going to talk about Unwritten Law's Elva. Welcome to this week's episode of the Punk Popcast. I am Brad, one of your hosts, and as per usual and always, I'm joined by our guy Jason. How are you today, Jason?
I'm doing good. Hashtag don't drink Coke Starlight. How are you, Brad?
I'm good. Drink, diet, do instead. That sounds like a miserable experience. Why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about it so they know why they should avoid it, like the plague, like the plague.
It tastes like Coke with marshmallow flavoring and graham cracker flavoring.
You know, okay. First up, I don't like Coke. Period. Like I do not like Coca-Cola at all. And I found out the other day that I think that's why I don't like Dr. Pepper either, because it's like Dr. Pepper is basically 2 parts Coke, 1 part two parts Coke, 1 part root beer, is what I have learned, supposedly.
Yeah,
so I'm like, okay, that's why I don't like Dr. Pepper either. That's right, that was with you. But man, like I love marshmallows, but it doesn't go with everything, especially roasted marshmallow. Because there's a place around here that does flavored sodas, and one of them is, they call it the Boy Scout, and it's root beer with toasted marshmallow and graham cracker flavoring, and it's terrible. It's terrible. My son got it one time, and I took a little sip of it, and it was awful. Absolutely awful. So
I agree.
Word of the wise, don't necessarily add roasted marshmallow to your drinks because it'll taste bad. But anyway, like we said, today we're talking about Unwritten Law's Elva. This is one of my favorite albums. I think I say that almost every week, but a lot of this stuff is really, truly great. And Unwritten Law holds a special place in my heart because there was probably about a year, maybe 2, where I was going to play basketball most Saturday mornings growing up with some of my friends. And I had this album on every time on my way there. And then the same thing on my way home, I'd stop by like the 7-Eleven and pick up donuts or something for myself on the way home. So I always want powdered donuts when I listen to Elva as well. So, but anyway, Jason, do you have any kind of special history with this album? Is there anything that sticks out to you?
Definitely. It's funny you said like a year or 2 period, because I would kind of say the same thing. Like for sure, like fall 2002 to at least like spring 2004 for me. Because like spoiler alert, up all night we used to play in the back of the bus on the way to soccer games.
Nice.
So like that makes me think of going to lose soccer games.
Going to lose soccer games.
Some teams have undefeated seasons. We had a defeated season. Okay.
That must have been miserable. What year in school was that for you? Were you a junior, senior?
I was a senior. Yeah.
Well, at least you were a senior, so you didn't have to decide whether you wanted to go back the next year, because that'll ruin a sport for you, man. Losing.
Actually, the next year they won a game. Like, and and since I've left, like every year they've gotten better, and they've gone to districts and states, and like great stuff for them. We were the last like awful team.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, no. Well, what I'm saying though is, like, you personally, you didn't have to make a decision. Like, it wasn't your junior year, and you were like, "Do I want to come back and lose more my senior year?" That you were like, "I'm done. I don't have to worry about this anymore. My decision has been made for me."
No. So like, what's funny, and like we're so off topic, but what's funny is like I quit. So like up until then, I was a golfer in the fall. I played competitive golf for my high school team, and like I got so sick of like the pressure to perform, because we were one of the better golf teams. Like we were always in districts. We were always competing high level. I hated it. I stopped liking golf. So I joined the soccer team, and like I learned more about myself on the losing soccer team than I ever did on the winning golf team. So it was a better experience for me personally.
And you know what's funny is that, like, growing up, I didn't think I used to care about winning or losing, but it's because I always played on winning teams in baseball. But then, like, as an adult, I played on an old man softball team, and we weren't very good. We just were losing, and I was like, this sucks. It's like I was like angry leaving games. Like, this is what it's like to lose. This stinks. This is awful. But yeah, I was so spoiled growing up that when I was on good teams when we won. But man, yeah.
I'll share with you.
I learned a lot about myself.
What I've learned over the years is losing builds character.
It does. Yeah. it kind of breaks down what you have, and then you get into it. But anyway, speaking of getting into it, Jason's going to lead us off this week. Jason, what's the first track you want to talk about off of Elva?
We're so all over the place. I love it. I'm gonna go with Geronimo.
Okay.
I love. First off, I love this whole album, but the second half of this album is really strong. And there's just a feeling with this song that I can't explain to you other than it just makes me feel like I miss that innocence of like those summers when I was a teenager. That, oh, here I go. So here I go. Oh, Geronimo, like you're leaping into something and you don't know where it's taking you. But by the end of the day, you know you had a fun experience. And it could be just something as simple as driving around in the car for like 2-3 hours in the middle of the night, just talking about anything and everything with your friends, or getting into shenanigans somewhere. It just captures that feeling of youth and innocence. And the lyrics don't quite match that, but the feeling of the song, the music really does.
It does, and it is very, it's very relaxed and loosey goosey. I feel like with this song, and we were talking about this a minute ago, though, Jason. But there is an acoustic version of this song, and an acoustic version of nearly every song on this album. It's a special live album, and I think we talked about this before. I don't love live albums. I don't love live versions of stuff because I don't need to hear the sound of the crowd. I would just want to enjoy the music as is. Like, don't get me wrong, I love going to concerts, but yeah, it's the experience. I want a different experience. But it's called Unwritten Law from Music in High Places. It's acoustic live album version, and the live version of this song is freaking real. Like the acoustic version will change. I think I told you it will change your perspective on Unwritten Law. The entire album will, but this one in particular is outstanding. I love it so much. This is one of the ones that like I'll go back and like start it over again if I got distracted at all while I'm listening because I didn't get to enjoy it fully, right? But also though, just it's that good. I love the acoustic version of this song.
I mean, this is a great song. I would say, without even hearing the acoustic version, this is just a great song in general.
Yeah.
I mean,
it is
phenomenal.
Yeah, I love this song so much. It's one of those ones that when I was first getting introduced to Unwritten Law, was specifically with this album with a few other mixed in because it was a mixed CD. I wasn't crazy about this song at first, but it's one that really grew on me and got to be one of my favorites on the album eventually over time. So there was that. But no, Geronimo is a solid pick. This is an outstanding song. If you haven't heard the acoustic version, go listen to it because, man, it's awesome. It's so good.
I know I will. So thank you for recommending it.
Yes, absolutely. In fact, I'll put the link to that acoustic album in the description for anybody who wants to listen to that in addition to Elva. But I'm gonna go with the opening track. I'm gonna go with Mean Girl. So this song was not on the mix CD that I had, and so I wasn't familiar with it until I had a friend who actually bought the album and he put it in. I was like, what is this? What is going on here? Because it was a side of Unwritten Law that I hadn't really necessarily heard that much of on that mix CD. And it's a typical Unwritten Law track one. If you listen to their other albums, like this is how they start every album is like Mean Girl. Have you noticed that?
I haven't, because I haven't really, I mean, I listened to the follow-up to this, but I wasn't like super into it, so I never really pursued any other Unwritten Law albums other than this one. But I mean, as an opening track, you can't get much better than this.
Yeah, so the way that it starts really just mellow with just like some guitar picking, whatever, and just mellow singing, and then it just busts into it, shoots out of a cannon, and doesn't look back. So aside from it being just like an excellent opener and just a great fun song, I think I've talked about this before, that there were sometimes like I was into girls who were like a little bit scary, right?
Yeah.
And like a little bit beyond my comfort level. And this is a song that reminds me of that. I'm in love with you. It's like the chorus is, I'm in love with Mean Girl. Like that's just basically how I'm in love with you. Like that's just how it goes. And I was like, yeah, like some of those girls were kind of mean, but like I was a little bit like digging it, even though I don't know how things would have gone if I'd actually like pursued something. Uh, but yeah, no, that's something that's always reminded me of
I
this
mean,
song is some of those girls.
I said to you off air that this song reminds me of a specific ex girlfriend of mine. So
Was she a mean girl, Jason?
that's the nicest way we can put it.
So let's put it this way: was she like a mean girl, like the movie Mean Girl, or was she like a legitimately like B?
I'll tell you next Tuesday.
Well said. Well said, sir. Go ahead with that. You need to, okay, go ahead with your next track. That's a walk-off. Absolute mic drop. Good job. What do you have next,
I
Jason?
just broke myself. I'm sorry. Okay, compose myself here. I'll go with Rest of My Life.
Okay.
This is a song. It was a single, actually. This was, I think, the third single off the album, because I remember a video for this one. Black and white, them like playing in a forest or a mountaintop, acoustic, because it is an acoustic song. And I liked the song then, and this is a theme I think this entire season with me, is I'm talking about songs that I loved then that I love more now because I understand the song better.
Mm-hmm.
You know that it's simple, it's direct, it's honest, and I think I love that honesty in this song.
Yeah. And one of the things that I love about Unwritten Law is the melodies of the chorus, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the melody's there with the verse, but anytime Scott Russo goes into a chorus, like we talked about at episode 1, the sing song chorus, and it's there with every single Unwritten Law song. And this song is like next level with it, right? Like it's one that you can absolutely sing along with, and that's one of my favorite things about Unwritten Law. And that's the thing that I love about this song in particular.
Yeah, this is a great song. I wouldn't call it a ballad. I don't think it's a ballad by any means,
No, 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 no.
Even though I would say it is definitely a song that is about love. I don't think it's a ballad in that regards. I think it's just a simple acoustic song that's heartfelt, and that doesn't have to be a ballad. And I think that's what makes this stand out.
Yeah, I agree with you. And by the way, this is another song that's like unreal. Like the true acoustic version is next level, Jason. So, but anyway, let's go ahead and we'll take a break, and we're going to talk about another song that just a couple more actually. Just when it goes acoustic, it's just something else. But man, we're going to get to those. We'll be right back.
9 Plus Us presents the Baseball Together podcast with your hosts, Blackjack Brad and Kansas City Little Big Briggy Blue Eyes. Weekly episodes for the entire baseball family where we talk all baseball all the time. Available on all your favorite podcast apps and on YouTube. Come join our baseball family where we do baseball together.
The Another Sports Podcast is the home of sports talk for everyone. Every other week you can catch David and Jason as they talk about all things sports, from current events to classic moments and everything in between. You can find the Another Sports Podcast on Anchor.fm, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Podcast Addict, and more. Please don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review.
Welcome back to the Punk Popcast. Today we're talking about Elva by Unwritten Law. So this season we've been doing our consensus album track, and it was kind of a no-brainer with this one. So we're going to get into it real quick. We're going to talk about Seeing Red. Jason, you said, if I remember correctly, you said this was the song that got you into Unwritten Law. Is that right?
Yeah, I can remember seeing the video on MTV too, and like trying to find when it would be on so I could record the video on VHS because I'm old. Because I liked the song so much. And then finally, again, because I'm old, um, there was a countdown called Out of Order hosted by a DJ called Jed the Fish, and this was always on during that summer of 2002. So I made a point to record it on my audio cassette tape for my 1986 Ford Bronco.
Nice. You're speaking to the demographic, Jason.
I know. The key demo.
We all understand it. We all hear you loud and clear. We hear the sound of the record button being pushed, the sound of the cassette being pushed in, and then possibly having to pull it out and get the pencil and wind it. Exactly right. You're exactly right. We know. So this was on that mix CD that I got, I believe, and it was the one song. It was the one song that really hooked me. I think I told you about how the song. The Legend of Johnny and Sarah. I don't know if that's actually the name of the song or if it's even really on Unwritten Law because I haven't been able to find it anywhere besides that mix CD. So honestly, Jason, now that I think about it, I don't know if my buddy found this song that was called Unwritten Law on a peer-to-peer sharing platform. And then we just happened to go into the rabbit hole of Unwritten Law after that, or if that was like an unreleased track that happened to be in the backwater area of the internet. I don't know. But that song was what introduced me to Unwritten Law. Seeing Red was what hooked me to Unwritten Law. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. And it's on the Oz Factor album from 1996.
There you go. Perfect. Thank you very much. I'm going to have to go find that and listen to that song because it's fantastic and has a really funny history with me and my friend. But anyway, so Seeing Red, though, for me, like I said, was the one that hooked me, and I was really excited. I went with one of my friends, and we saw the movie Grind. Do you remember that movie?
I do remember that movie.
Yeah, I own that movie.
Sweet Lou.
Yeah. Yeah. But Seeing Red was on that soundtrack, and I remember when it came on and was playing, we were like, yeah, man, yeah, it's Unwritten Law in a movie. That's so cool because we were pumped about it. And the thing that's funny is that I ended up buying the soundtrack later, and it's actually like a different version than the album version.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I can't remember the exact differences, but I do remember listening and being like, I don't recognize every part of this. But no, I thought it was cool, and it was a great single for Unwritten Law to put out off of this album to start things off because it's catchy, right?
It's really catchy. I mean, it's a breakup song, which always does well.
Yeah.
And it makes me think of the girl I dated that summer. Mean Girl's a different girl, for the record. Again, this album covers like a 2-year period almost. But it always will make me think of that person I dated, that girl I dated in summer 2002, because when I got the album.
Yeah.
So, I mean, for me, it's always kind of hit that spot, even when it first came out.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is, to say it's the strongest song on the album, I feel like would be a cop out to me just because it was the single. But honestly, it's one of those ones where you always go back to the well with it. It's one of my top 3.
Yeah, I can see that, and I can agree with it. I think one of the songs you're going to talk about is the strongest song on the album. So, spoiler
I agree with you.
alert.
Wholeheartedly. I wholeheartedly agree with you. But again, another song, the acoustic is better. It's unreal. It's unreal, Jason. I'm gonna say that with the next. We're gonna go into it right now. Let's just skip to it. The next track is Up All Night, the absolute strongest track on the entire album.
Yes.
And for me to say the acoustic version is better than the original, I think says a lot. Because, man, this is one of my favorite songs ever. When I was listening to this album a lot when I was playing in a band for a little while, and I showed up and I learned it. I learned how to play the song, and I showed up to our band practice one day. It was just me and our drummer sitting there, and I just started playing it. He's just like, dude, that's awesome. I was like, we should play it. And so he's like trying to figure out the drum part. He's like, I can't do it, so we won't. All right.
Oh
Well,
man.
so it's just a song that was in my repertoire for a long time, and I was very excited about it. I'm still very excited about it, um, but no, Up All Night is an outstanding song. Just the way that it starts, and then the cadence of the lyrics. Right? Is that what catches you? Is the cadence of the lyrics
I mean,
in the verse?
the lyrics I love singing along to
Mm-hmm.
because of the way he does sing them. That like you said, the cadence. The music hits so good on this song. Everything about this song is like perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yes, the closest to perfection.
if we were doing individual songs, this would be a 100 for me.
Yeah,
Uh,
definitely.
For me, like my backstory with it is we used to play this on the bus on the way to soccer games my senior year because
Uh-huh.
the CD came out that summer.
Mhm.
So it makes me think of like a lot of fun times on the bus before we lost games.
Right.
And it always makes me think of like summer nights hanging out with my best friend David
Yeah.
because we would be up all night just talking by the bonfire, or we would sometimes hook up the TV and the GameCube outside on the porch and play NHL hits all night outside.
Nice. That does sound like a lot of fun. That's awesome.
It was a lot of fun, yeah.
But no, like, so it's that first verse. Like, there are a few songs that have a hook the way this does, and it's like you said, the way that he sings it, and it's the can we talk about automatic satisfaction, sitting back, relaxing, floored? What's wrong with kicking it when you're bored and lit? It's that right there that, like, I feel like brings everybody in, and it's like so fun to sing. And why, when you're driving around with your friends, you're just like, do it again. We got to do it again and sing it. We got to do it again, right? Like, you just start it over and sing it 5 times in a row because that first verse is the part that you just want to sing every single time. Like, it took me a long time to learn the second verse because I just didn't even care. I just wanted that first verse.
It's like the pop punk version of End of the World by REM when everyone yells Leonard Bernstein.
That's exactly what it is. 100%. 100%. That is exactly what it is. I had never thought of that.
I wish I could tell you that was calculated.
But no, you're spot on, though. You're spot on. With that, Jason, what's your next track? What track do you want to talk about next?
We're going into all of my songs and I'm like dying. And I have like the most serious songs. Okay. I can't stop. It's gone. Okay. All right. My last song is Elva. The title track.
Title track. There you go.
I love this song. And it is a song I still listen to when I'm kind of stressed out. You know, I love that I can feel the world upon my back. I got 16 people breathing down my neck. It's kind of hard to keep your head afloat when the rain won't stop and your face is soaked, but I'm all right. Like, we feel that. We go through that now as adults with kids, with work, with extracurriculars. You know, we are busy people now, and it hits so, it always hit in a different, as a kid to now, it's meant different things over the years. It's my theme this year. But it's so true. Like, it's just, you need that pause. And how great is that chorus? Just sing that song to me that goes, I'm in love with you, in love with me. That's amazing. I love that chorus. I love this song. The song's great. Again, not a ballad, but a slow song that's just honest.
Yeah, and that's one thing that I like that Unwritten Law does, is that they don't necessarily throw a ballot in your face, right? Because sometimes that's the way I feel about ballots. Sometimes it's like I don't need like that side of it, but I want like the mellow tone sometimes, right? And I feel like they do a really good job with that. And this is a song that I listened to for a long time, like a really long time. Since I didn't have a track list in front of me, I had no idea it was the title track. No clue what it was called.
And you know what? Like, it is talking about stress, but I think we got to talk about that second verse real quick, because that second verse, is it has two lines that are like super, super romantic and are really
Mhm.
undercover if you're not paying attention. I can feel your breath upon my neck. One last caress, I'm a nervous wreck. That's two powerful lines and really descriptive. And it creates a nice visual in the song.
And I feel like as a high schooler, that was a line that was really relatable. Because like, I mean, you've seen the movie Say Anything, right?
Yes, I've seen Say Anything.
Yeah, everybody's seen Say Anything. Well, so I don't want to get too into it, but like, you know, the part where they're in the car and he's like shaking and she's like, are you okay? He's like, yeah, I'm just cold. It's like, no, he's not. He's nervous. Right.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, like it's the same thing. So no, that line might be from that movie. I don't know for sure because Say Anything is referenced a lot in pop punk culture.
I gave
But
her my heart. She gave me a pen.
yeah, there's a freaking band called Say Anything. Let's be real. So, but no, like I feel like that might be where that comes from because anyway, but no, it's a great line and it's perfectly descriptive and most guys from high school could relate to that line. So, but anywho, all right, let's go into the last track. And I kind of feel like I don't know, I did myself a little bit of a disservice by going to Up All Night already. But this could be like a gateway song for me, I think. This is Evolution. It is the last song on the album. And it's also the hardest, I think it's the hardest song on the album. And, you know, they talk about gateway drugs, like, oh, marijuana's going to get you into harder drugs, right? Well, I feel like this was like a gateway song for me to like, oh, I could like really dig something harder than what I've been listening to, right? So like, I think kind of got me into this more of the screamo side, which we'll
Okay.
get into a little bit more, because I could handle. I really truly enjoyed the heavier guitars that came with this song, and the drive and the way that it was played and everything, and it was another song that I was like, I got to learn how to play that on my guitar, so I learned it, and I was just like, yeah, like rocking out on my acoustic guitar, broke a string, I think at one point, you know, and I was like, yes, this is awesome. So it's not necessarily like any of the lyrics. Like I got to say though, the beginning, the whole thing with Judge Roughneck, like that's a super cool intro to a song. But mostly what it is the drive and the pace and the style of the song was really something that kind of like made me want more of that beyond what I was getting with Unwritten Law, Messed, things like that, you know?
What I like that you touched upon, and I didn't think about it when I was re-listening to this album, but now that you've mentioned about how they can do the harder stuff, this album's really all over the place musically because you do have these
It is.
harder songs like Mean Girl and Evolution, and then like you have random reggae type songs like How You Feel and these really great acoustic songs and like pop, like really poppy songs like Seeing Red and Sound Siren. It's so all over the place, but it works and it makes for a great album.
Mm-hmm. It's a really good album to listen to when you're not sure what you want to listen to, because you're gonna get a little bit of everything, and I think that's one of the reasons that I listened to it so much for so long, because it was like, well, I kind of want to listen to RX Bandits, but at the same time, I want to listen to like some like Census Fail, but then I also want to like maybe something kind of like Early November, you know. So it's like, but it's all in one place with Unwritten Law, and
Yeah.
I think that might be the reason that why it was stuck in my CD player for months on end without anything else taking its place. So, but anyway, let's wrap things up here. Jason, what would you rate this album on a scale of 1 to 100 with our pop punk scale?
I'm gonna go with the 98 because I could do without all the Raleigh interludes.
Yeah, I could too. Some of them are funny. The Polly Want a Cracker one, I've loved that one forever. Like that's my favorite one. We always tried to hold that out the entire time, and nobody could ever do it because it just goes forever. But I'm gonna agree with you on that, though. That a 98, I think, is appropriate. It's as close to just about as close to perfection as we can get.
I think
But
you
at the
take
same
those out,
time,
and it's a perfect album.
I would agree with you. And there was one song that I wanted to talk about that you mentioned, like with like Sound Siren, Actress Model. That's a great song.
That's a great
I
song.
almost went with that one. That's a fun one, and it's one of those poppy ones that's like really really cool to listen to when you're kind of in the mood for it. And the
Blame It On Me is great too.
Oh my gosh, it's all so good. I think you're right. Without the interludes, it would be a perfect album. Maybe what we'll do is we'll go through and we'll make ourselves, we'll burn ourselves mixed CDs without those on there. Maybe that's the solution to the problem.
I'll play it in my non-existent CD player in my car.
I still have one in my car, so that's because it's a 2008, 2009. But anywho, let us know what you think about Unwritten Law's Elva. Like I said, I truly love this album. I truly love so much about Unwritten Law. We'll put the link to the album in the description, as well as the acoustic version. It's a lot. It was actually live at Yellowstone National Park before they played it. So that's another thing that's really cool about it. But go ahead and listen to those. Reach out to us at Punk Popcast on Twitter. You can reach me. It's on the screen there at Jojo Cornero. And Jason, you can reach him at
XJasonDagX.
Perfect. Very good. Thanks for joining us for this week's episode of the Punk Popcast, and we'll catch you next week.